Leclerc makes a surprise as he teases leaving Ferrari. Hamilton reveals sad news behind losing Roscoe and all the latest F1 news. What if I told you that Charles Leclerc, Ferrari's golden boy, might actually be planning his escape from Maranello? The rumors are swirling, and the evidence is mounting. This could be the biggest driver market shakeup we've seen in years. Picture this. It's 2027, and instead of seeing that iconic red Ferrari with Leclerc behind the wheel, we might witness him donning completely different colors. The man who once declared his undying love for the prancing horse is reportedly exploring his options, and 3 major teams are already in his crosshairs. Let me paint you the full picture of what's really happening behind the scenes in Formula One's most secretive negotiations. Charles Leclerc signed with Ferrari back when he was just a young hopeful, dreaming of following in the footsteps of legends like Michael Schumacher and Niki Lauda. 7 seasons have passed since he first climbed into that SF90, managing to secure 2 victories and 7 pole positions. But here's the harsh reality. Ferrari has never given him a championship-capable car. Think about it from Leclerc's perspective. You're one of the most talented drivers on the current grid. You've proven your speed time and again, yet season after season, you watch other drivers celebrate championship glory while you're left fighting for scraps. That kind of frustration doesn't just disappear with PR statements about loyalty and passion for the brand. The Monegasque driver has been incredibly patient, probably more patient than most would be in his position. But patience has its limits, especially when you're watching your prime years potentially slip away without a genuine shot at the title that every Formula One driver dreams of winning. Now, here's where things get really interesting. Recent developments suggest that Leclerc and his management team aren't just sitting around hoping things improve at Ferrari. They're actively exploring alternatives, and the evidence is becoming harder to ignore. During the summer break, photographs surfaced showing Leclerc alongside his manager Nicolas Tot meeting with representatives from Lawrence Stroll's Aston Martin team. These weren't casual encounters at a restaurant or social gathering. These appeared to be serious business discussions, the kind that happen when a driver is genuinely considering his future options. But Aston Martin isn't the only team that's caught Leclerc's attention. According to sources within the Formula One paddock, Nicolas Tot held meetings with key McLaren personnel during the Italian Grand Prix weekend. We're talking about discussions with team principal Andrea Stella and CEO Alessandro Alunni Bravi. These conversations allegedly focused on understanding contract situations and exploring what kinds of arrangements might be possible if circumstances changed. The third team in this triangle of possibilities is Mercedes. Reports suggest that Leclerc met with Toto Wolff during a trip to Capri, the same location where Max Verstappen also made an appearance. Coincidence? In Formula One, there are rarely coincidences when it comes to driver movements. Each of these 3 teams represents a different kind of opportunity for Leclerc. Aston Martin has been investing heavily in infrastructure and personnel, bringing in top-tier talent like Adrian Newey and building state-of-the-art facilities. They're clearly positioning themselves as a future championship contender, and having someone like Leclerc could accelerate their timeline significantly. McLaren, on the other hand, has already demonstrated their capability to build race-winning and championship-contending cars. They've got the recent track record to prove they can deliver when it matters, something that might be very appealing to a driver who's tired of waiting for his current team to figure things out. Mercedes brings a different proposition entirely. They're the most successful team of the hybrid era, with multiple constructor and driver championships under their belt. Even though they're currently in a rebuilding phase, their infrastructure and expertise remain unmatched in many ways. The timing of these discussions is particularly telling. Leclerc's current contract with Ferrari runs until 2029. But in Formula One, contracts can be complex documents with various clauses and exit strategies. The fact that these conversations are happening now suggests that either Leclerc has some flexibility in his current deal, or he's planning well ahead for when that flexibility might become available. What makes this situation even more compelling is the context surrounding Ferrari's recent performance. Despite having 2 extremely talented drivers in Leclerc and Carlos Sainz, the team has struggled to deliver consistent championship-level performance. Strategic errors, reliability issues, and development missteps have cost them dearly in recent seasons. From Ferrari's perspective, losing Leclerc would be catastrophic. He represents not just talent on track, but also marketing value and a connection to the passionate Ferrari fan base. The pressure on the team to deliver a championship-capable car has never been higher. The 2026 regulation changes add another layer of complexity to this entire situation. These new technical regulations could completely reshape the competitive order in Formula One. A team that's struggling today might become dominant tomorrow, while current frontrunners could find themselves at the back of the pack. This uncertainty makes timing crucial for any driver considering a move. If Ferrari fails to provide Leclerc with a genuine championship opportunity in 2026 and 2027, his patience might finally run out completely. The conversations happening now are likely insurance policies, ways to ensure that he has alternatives if his current situation doesn't improve. The stakes couldn't be higher for everyone involved. For Leclerc, this represents potentially his last chance to position himself for championship success during his prime years. For the teams courting him, landing a driver of his caliber could be the missing piece in their championship puzzle. And for Ferrari, keeping their star driver happy might determine whether they return to championship glory or continue their recent struggles. What happens next could reshape the entire driver market and determine the competitive landscape for years to come. What happened in Baku could change everything. Oscar Piastri just endured what might be the most catastrophic weekend of his Formula One career, and the ripple effects could reshape the entire championship battle. Picture this: the championship leader arrives at Azerbaijan full of confidence, only to suffer 3 devastating mistakes in a single weekend. We're talking about a driver who's been the picture of consistency, suddenly looking like a rookie under pressure. This is the Oscar Piastri story that nobody saw coming. Let's break down exactly what went wrong in Baku, because this wasn't just bad luck. This was a complete system failure from one of the sport's brightest talents. First came the pace problem. From the moment Piastri hit the track, something was fundamentally off. He wasn't just slower than usual, he was getting comprehensively outpaced by his teammate Lando Norris in identical machinery. When you're fighting for a championship, every tenth of a second matters, and Piastri was hemorrhaging time lap after lap. Then, qualifying arrived, and things got worse. While he managed to scrape into the top 10 shootout, his session ended in the most brutal way possible. McLaren number 81, buried deep in the concrete barriers. The red flags flew, his car was destroyed, and suddenly the championship leader found himself starting from 9th position. But the real nightmare was still to come. Race day brought the kind of mistake that haunts drivers for years. Piastri jumped the start, a fundamental error that every driver learns to avoid in their junior categories. As he tried to correct his position, the anti-stall system kicked in, and he watched helplessly as the entire field streamed past him into turn 1. If the story ended there, it would already be devastating. But Piastri wasn't finished writing his Baku horror story. Moments later, he found himself back in the barriers, retiring from his first race in 34 attempts. Championship. Leaders aren't supposed to make these kinds of mistakes, especially not 3 of them in a single weekend. The timing couldn't have been worse. While Piastri was destroying his championship hopes against Baku's unforgiving walls, Max Verstappen was doing what champions do, capitalizing on his rival's mistakes. Verstappen's victory didn't just hand him crucial points, it transformed him from an outsider into a genuine championship threat once again. This is where the story gets really interesting, because Sky Sports analyst Jamie Chadwick didn't mince words about what this means for Piastri's title hopes. Her assessment was blunt and potentially career-defining. This weekend needs to serve as a massive wake-up call. Chadwick highlighted something that should terrify any Piastri fan. She's never seen the Australian driver perform like this before. 3 major mistakes in one weekend represents a complete departure from everything we thought we knew about Oscar Piastri's character and racecraft. The performance deficit to Norris is particularly concerning. Championship-caliber drivers don't typically get outpaced by their teammates when everything is on the line. Yet that's exactly what happened in Baku. And according to Chadwick, it wasn't an isolated incident. Similar pace deficits appeared at Monza as well. This raises uncomfortable questions about Piastri's ability to handle championship pressure. We've seen promising drivers crumble under the weight of title expectations before, and the early warning signs are starting to flash red for the Australian. But here's what makes this situation so fascinating from a championship perspective. Piastri has shown remarkable resilience throughout his career. Remember his off-track excursion during the season-opening Australian Grand Prix? He bounced back from that mistake and went on a tear that established him as the championship favorite. The question now is whether he can summon that same mental strength when the pressure is at its absolute peak. Championship fights aren't won or lost on single weekends, but they can certainly be defined by how drivers respond to adversity. McLaren as a team also needs to perform some serious soul-searching. When both of your drivers struggle simultaneously, it suggests deeper problems than individual mistakes. The team needs to provide Piastri with the platform and confidence to rediscover his championship-winning form. The mathematics of the championship fight have shifted dramatically. What looked like a comfortable points advantage for Piastri has now become a genuine three-way battle with Norris and Verstappen both sensing opportunity. Every race from here becomes absolutely crucial, and there's no margin for error. Veterans of championship battles know that momentum is everything in Formula One. Right now, all the momentum belongs to Verstappen, who's proven time and again that he thrives when others crumble under pressure. Piastri needs to reverse this trend immediately, or risk watching his championship dreams disappear. The next race weekend becomes absolutely critical for Piastri's title hopes. Can he bounce back from this disaster and prove that Baku was an anomaly rather than a sign of things to come? Or will the pressure continue to mount until it becomes overwhelming? Championship fights often hinge on moments like these. How drivers respond when everything goes wrong reveals their true character. Oscar Piastri is about to discover what he's really made of, and the entire Formula One world will be watching to see if he has the mental fortitude to reclaim his destiny. The wake-up call has been delivered loud and clear. Now we'll find out if Oscar Piastri was listening. The Formula One world is in mourning today, and if you're a fan of Lewis Hamilton or just love seeing the human side of our racing heroes, this story will absolutely break your heart. Seven-time world champion Lewis Hamilton has just announced the devastating loss of his beloved bulldog Roscoe, and the emotional tribute he shared will leave you reaching for tissues. But this isn't just about losing a pet. It's about the incredible bond between man and his best friend that captured the hearts of millions around the world. For over a decade, Roscoe has been one of the most recognizable faces in the Formula One paddock. While drivers are known for their helmets and racing suits, Hamilton became famous for something entirely different, being the first driver to bring his furry companions to race weekends. Roscoe, along with his late companion Coco, transformed the sterile world of high-performance motorsport into something more relatable and human. Picture this. You're at a Grand Prix, surrounded by million-dollar cars and intense competition, and suddenly, there's this adorable bulldog waddling through the paddock, completely unbothered by the chaos around him. That was Roscoe's magic. He didn't care about championship points or pole positions. He was just happy to be with his dad, Lewis, living his best life at racetracks around the globe. But the story takes a heartbreaking turn. Just last week, Hamilton reached out to his millions of followers with a desperate plea, asking for thoughts and prayers after what he described as a scary few hours with Roscoe. The situation quickly deteriorated when the beloved bulldog contracted pneumonia and fell into a coma. For 4 agonizing days, Roscoe fought on life support, while Hamilton maintained a bedside vigil, hoping against hope that his faithful friend would pull through. The emotional weight of what happened next is almost unbearable. Hamilton, who has faced down some of the world's most dangerous racetracks and high-pressure situations, found himself confronting something far more difficult than any championship battle. He had to make the impossible decision to let Roscoe go peacefully. In his own words, Hamilton described this as one of the most painful experiences of his life. The Instagram post Hamilton shared reveals the depth of his grief and love. He wrote about how Roscoe never stopped fighting right until the very end, showing the same determination that made him such a perfect companion for a racing champion. Hamilton called Roscoe a beautiful soul, an angel, and a true friend. Words that resonate with anyone who has ever loved a pet unconditionally. What makes this story even more poignant is Hamilton's admission that while he had lost Coco to a suspected heart attack in 2020, he had never before faced the decision to put a beloved pet to sleep. This experience connected him to countless pet owners who have walked that same difficult path, sharing in a universal pain that transcends fame, fortune, and racing achievements. The impact of Roscoe's presence in Formula One cannot be overstated. He wasn't just Hamilton's pet hero. He became a paddock celebrity in his own right. Fans would look forward to seeing him at races, and his calm demeanor amid the chaos of Grand Prix weekends provided a touching reminder that even in the high-stakes world of professional racing, simple companionship matters most. Hamilton's decision to bring Roscoe to races also opened the door for other drivers to share their love of animals with fans. Charles Leclerc's dog Leo and Pierre Gasly's Simba have since become regular fixtures at race weekends, creating a tradition that Roscoe pioneered. These furry ambassadors have helped humanize drivers who might otherwise seem untouchable to fans. The timing of this loss adds another layer of emotion to the story. As Hamilton transitions to Ferrari for the upcoming season, saying goodbye to Roscoe feels like the end of an era. For over a decade, that bulldog was by his side through victories, defeats, championship battles, and quiet moments away from the spotlight. Now, as Hamilton embarks on this new chapter of his career, he'll be doing it without his most loyal supporter. What strikes me most about Hamilton's tribute is his gratitude despite the pain. He emphasized that bringing Roscoe into his life was the best decision he ever made, and he expressed deep appreciation for all the love and support fans showed his dog over the years. Even in grief, Hamilton found space for thankfulness, showing the kind of grace that has made him beloved far beyond racing circles. The loss of Roscoe reminds us that behind the helmets and fireproof suits, Formula One drivers are human beings who love deeply and hurt just like the rest of us. Hamilton's willingness to share his grief publicly creates a connection with fans that goes far beyond racing achievements. It shows that success on the track means nothing compared to the unconditional love of a faithful friend. As the Formula One community mourns alongside Hamilton, Roscoe's legacy lives on. Not just as the first paddock pupper, but as a reminder that the most meaningful victories in life often happen away from the cameras and trophy ceremonies. What if I told you that one weekend race could end a Formula One championship dream forever? Last weekend, Max Verstappen took his Ferrari GT3 to the legendary Nürburgring Nordschleife and absolutely destroyed the competition, winning his very first GT3 race. But here's the shocking part. If he was driving for McLaren instead of Red Bull, this victory might never have happened. Picture this. You're leading the Formula One championship fight, millions of dollars, and a team's entire season hanging in the balance. And your driver wants to tackle the most dangerous racetrack in the world during their weekend off. Would you let them do it? This isn't just about racing anymore. This is about million-dollar decisions that could make or break an entire organization. Red Bull's Helmut Marko called Verstappen's weekend adventure his great passion, praising the triple world champion for finding time between simulator sessions, marketing commitments, and PR appointments to chase his racing dreams. The Austrian team fully supported their star driver as he lined up third on the grid, then systematically dismantled the competition, building an incredible 62-second lead before handing the car to his teammate for the victory. But here's where things get really interesting. Bernie Collins, former Aston Martin strategist and current Sky Sports analyst, raised a question that should make every team principal break out in a cold sweat. What if Verstappen was actually fighting for the championship right now? What if Red Bull was battling for the constructors' title against McLaren? The Nordschleife isn't called the Green Hell for entertainment value. This track has claimed lives, injured countless drivers, and destroyed more racing dreams than perhaps any other circuit on Earth. Just this past June, a 24-year-old man died instantly at Schwedenkreuz Corner when his car went violently off track during what wasn't even a competitive racing session. 2 other passengers suffered serious injuries in that same incident. Think about the mathematics of risk here. Formula One teams routinely ban their drivers from skiing, snowboarding, mountain biking, or any activity that could potentially cause injury during the racing season. These are calculated business decisions where millions of dollars in prize money, sponsor commitments, and championship glory hang in the balance. Yet here's Verstappen, racing on arguably the most dangerous track in motorsport, in a slower car where he has less control over other drivers' mistakes. Collins put it perfectly when she said motorsport is inherently dangerous, and you simply cannot be responsible for the actions of other drivers around you. A major accident could happen at any moment, regardless of your skill level. Even someone as talented as Verstappen faces the same universal truth, and One mistake from another driver could end everything in an instant. Former Formula One driver Karun Chandhok believes McLaren would absolutely not allow their drivers to take such risks, especially with both Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri currently fighting in the championship battle. His logic is brutally simple. When you have drivers competing for the world title, the risk-reward calculation completely changes. The potential reward of a weekend GT3 victory pales in comparison to the catastrophic cost of losing a championship contender to injury. But Chandhok also highlighted something fascinating about driver psychology. He compared Verstappen to Fernando Alonso, suggesting that certain drivers actually get energized by constant racing activity. They're not content to sit idle between Formula One weekends. They need that competitive fix to stay sharp and motivated. He drew parallels to Lewis Hamilton's fashion show appearances, noting how Toto Wolff used to defend those activities by saying a happy Lewis was a faster Lewis. This reveals a crucial insight into modern Formula One team management. It's not just about having the fastest car or the best strategy. It's about understanding the unique psychological needs of your drivers and managing them accordingly. Some drivers thrive on complete focus and isolation between races, while others need diverse experiences to maintain their competitive edge. Red Bull clearly understands Verstappen's character. They recognize that his passion for racing extends far beyond Formula One, and they've calculated that supporting his extracurricular activities ultimately benefits their championship campaigns. Marco specifically mentioned that during periods when their car wasn't competitive, Verstappen's outside racing activities kept his passion alive. Now that both his driving and their car are performing at peak levels, everything is working in harmony. The timing of Verstappen's GT3 adventure is particularly telling. He earned his racing permit during the break between the Italian and Azerbaijan Grands Prix, then immediately put it to use at one of the most challenging venues in motorsport. This wasn't a publicity stunt or casual weekend hobby. This was serious competitive racing against experienced GT3 drivers on their home turf. McLaren faces a completely different scenario. With two drivers genuinely capable of winning the championship, every decision carries exponentially higher stakes. The team cannot afford to lose either driver to injury, especially when they're finally in position to challenge for their first Constructors' Championship since 1998. For them, the risk-reward calculation is overwhelmingly clear. No weekend racing victory is worth jeopardizing their first real championship opportunity in over 2 decades. This situation perfectly illustrates how different circumstances require completely different management approaches in Formula One. Red Bull can afford to be more flexible with Verstappen because they've already secured multiple championships together and have built a culture of trust and mutual respect. McLaren, meanwhile, must prioritize protecting their championship opportunity above all other considerations. The broader question extends beyond just Verstappen and McLaren. Should Formula One teams have standardized policies about driver activities during the season? Or should each team be free to make their own risk assessments based on their specific circumstances and driver personalities? There's no universal right answer, only individual team decisions based on their unique situations and championship aspirations. Is Yuki Tsunoda finally finding his Red Bull rhythm just when his Formula One career hangs in the balance? The Japanese driver's sudden breakthrough performance in Baku might be the turning point that saves his seat, and the story behind it reveals exactly what separates struggling drivers from championship contenders. Picture this scenario. You're promoted to the most prestigious team in Formula One, replacing a promising rookie, only to find yourself consistently trailing your teammate by massive margins. Sound familiar? That's been Tsunoda's reality since his surprise elevation to Red Bull earlier this season, where he's managed just 20 points compared to Max Verstappen's dominant haul of 255. But something dramatic shifted after the Italian Grand Prix weekend. What happened in that crucial meeting room conversation could determine not just Tsunoda's immediate future, but reshape how Red Bull develops their drivers moving forward. The numbers tell a stark story of struggle. Before Azerbaijan, Tsunoda had collected merely 12 championship points across multiple race weekends. His 13th place finish at Monza represented another disappointing outing where he found himself running a full second per lap slower than his world champion teammate. For any driver at Formula One's pinnacle, such gaps are career-threatening. However, Baku delivered something entirely different. Tsunoda crossed the finish line in 6th position, securing his strongest result since joining Red Bull. More importantly than the final position were the underlying performance metrics that caught team management's attention. Senior advisor Helmut Marko revealed the pivotal conversation that sparked this transformation. Following Monza's poor showing, team leadership sat down with Tsunoda to completely reassess their approach. The revelation was simple yet profound. Not every driver requires identical treatment or coaching methods. The realization struck that Tsunoda needed substantially more guidance and support than Verstappen requires. This isn't surprising when comparing their respective experience levels. Verstappen has been refining his craft at the sport's highest level for nearly a decade, while Tsunoda continues developing his racecraft against the most demanding competition imaginable. Red Bull's solution involved two key changes. First, they committed to providing Tsunoda with significantly more detailed coaching throughout race weekends. Second, they began adjusting car setup parameters more closely aligned with his specific preferences and driving style, rather than expecting him to adapt to whatever configuration suited his teammate. The Baku results validated this new strategy immediately. Team principal Laurent Mekies praised not just Tsunoda's final position, but his overall race execution. The performance data showed Tsunoda running within 2 to 4 tenths of Verstappen's pace consistently throughout the race distance, a remarkable improvement from his previous 1-second deficits. What made this performance particularly impressive was the competitive context. Many expected Tsunoda would spend his afternoon defending against faster McLaren and Ferrari challengers, potentially compromising Verstappen's victory chances. Instead, he held his position purely on merit, with Lando Norris unable to mount any serious challenge from behind. This breakthrough illuminates broader questions about driver development in modern Formula One. Teams often expect immediate adaptation from new arrivals, particularly when promoting from junior categories or sister teams. However, the reality suggests that individualized coaching approaches might unlock potential that standardized methods leave dormant. The timing couldn't be more critical for Tsunoda personally. His current contract expires at season's end, leaving his Formula One future entirely uncertain. Rising talent Isaac Hadjar has been impressing at Racing Bulls, creating additional pressure for the Japanese driver to justify his continued presence in Red Bull's driver program. Red Bull faces their own strategic dilemma regarding Verstappen's future teammate for the upcoming seasons. While Verstappen's dominance continues unabated, finding a suitable supporting driver remains challenging. The team needs someone capable of scoring consistent points while not disrupting their championship leader's rhythm. Tsunoda's Baku performance suggests he might finally be finding that balance. His pace was strong enough to merit his track position, yet he never interfered with Verstappen's race-winning charge. This represents exactly the kind of performance Red Bull requires from their second driver. The psychological aspects of this turnaround cannot be overlooked. Confidence plays an enormous role in Formula One performance, and struggling drivers often find themselves trapped in negative spirals. Tsunoda's breakthrough could provide the mental foundation needed for sustained improvement throughout the remaining race weekends. Looking ahead, consistency will determine whether Baku represents a genuine turning point or merely an isolated, strong performance. Formula One history is littered with drivers who showed flashes of brilliance without building sustained success. Tsunoda needs to prove his new approach can deliver reliable results across varying circuit types and conditions. The broader implications extend beyond one driver's career prospects. If Red Bull's individualized coaching approach proves successful with Tsunoda, it could influence how the entire organization develops future talent. Rather than expecting immediate adaptation to established systems, they might invest more heavily in personalized driver development programs. As the season progresses toward its conclusion, every remaining race weekend becomes crucial for Tsunoda's Formula One survival. His Baku breakthrough provides hope, but only consistent. Follow-up performances will secure his racing future at Motorsport's highest level.